and welcome to this new webinar by Televic conference. My name is Stefan de Munk. I'm part of the product management team, and I'm here with Karel van Heulen, also colleague product management. And today we would like to talk a little bit about one of our newest features, the advanced audio routing. This webinar will take about 45 minutes at max. Please stay alert because during the webinar we will ask about 3 questions, and at the end you will have a chance to win an Amazon gift card if you answer all of them correct. After this session, we'll upload the recording of this webinar to our website, so if you want to share or rewatch certain parts, don't hesitate to visit the website and view the recording over there. And if you have any questions during the presentation, don't hesitate to ask them at the chat. We do prefer that you contact us directly if we have any more things that we want to explain to you or any more details we can give to you. It would be best to do this in a face-to-face or a call meeting. For today, the agenda, so we would like to start off with giving some context, some overview on why exactly we made this change. Then we'll dive into the audio configurator and all its features. And then afterwards, we'll close off with the licensing model. So to give you a little bit context on why exactly we did this development, we would like to start with this. And if you have been using our platform before, if you've been using Televic equipment before, you will probably have noticed that we have 2 ways of configuring our system. On the one hand, we have Confero as the platform, the main platform on our product. It's very easy to use, very easy to set up. It's a web-based system, so it's for your typical user. And again, the goal is here to make it as easy as possible. On the other side, we have Cocon, which you can also use as the main platform. And this really has an extensive set of features. It's designed for the power users among you. If you want to have very complex meeting setups or, for instance, voting capabilities, Cocon is what you would like to use in this case. If, however, you would go to the web page itself, you wouldn't see 2 but 3 different versions. You have Plexus, you have Cocon, and you have Confero. So the question here, how these all work together. So if you, for instance, would use Cocon, you would need to install the Plexus firmware on our devices, on our hardware devices, and then use Cocon on a PC specifically, where you have a different set of applications to configure both your setup and your meeting. If you're using Confero, on the other hand, it's just a firmware version you need to install on the product, and then you use the web page to log in and make any changes on the product itself. If you, let's say, depending on what you need, you might expand our basic Confero platform with Confero 360, which adds a little bit of additional features. But if you want to have more hybrid meetings as well, we have Confero Meet, Plan, and Come as additional feature sets towards the basic Confero platform. Over time, we made also some changes on Confero, such as smart audio control and diagnostics. And at the same time, you also have the different applications in Cocon, such as the meeting configurator, the audio configurator, the video configurator. So all different applications to really manage your meeting and manage your room and audio setup. The problem, however, here is if you want to combine some of these features. For instance, if you want to have smart audio control in combination with an audio configuration system, that's today not possible. You can't merge the 2 platforms together. And this is something that over time, in the next steps, we really would like to solve. Moving towards the future, we would like to start putting different configurators on the Confero platform, such as the audio configurator, the video configurator, and the interpretation configurator. And as this is the first webinar on the audio configurator, this is, of course, our first step. With this, you will be able to combine, for instance, smart audio control and the audio configuration capabilities within the Confero platform. However, towards the future, we want to take the next steps as well. We want to really merge the two together into one single framework, one single firmware version for our hardware. So then you don't have to make the choice whether or not you want to do Cocon or Confero. You have one single firmware version with all configurators available. And then you make the choice between Cocon or Confero for your meeting management, depending on the use case and your own need. So, in a nutshell, what's in it for you? At the first stage, we're going to just move the configurators, but in general, towards the future, the intention is that you have more and new functionality for both the users of Cocon and Confero. So, if you, depending on if you're a typical or an advanced user, you will have all the new features available via a web page or via the applications in Cocon. And there's in general less confusion in how to use the system. It's one single firmware version, so swapping between one or the other is very easy to do. Moving forward, we would like to start with the first question. So it's not really a question, it's rather a poll. So what management software do you use today? Do you use Confero, Cocon? Do you use both, depending on the situation? Or are you in a situation where you don't use Televic material for now? I'll give you a few seconds to answer this question. Okay, and now I would suggest we move to the second aspect of this, where Karel will have an explanation on the advanced audio routing capabilities. Karel?
Okay, Stefan, thank you very much for giving a little bit of context on why we do the things. As Stefan already explained, within the next coming weeks, we will have a new release of our embedded software, or Confero software, where we will have the possibility to have advanced audio routing capabilities. Now, before we dive into this, we would like to explain that there are, let's say, unlicensed and licensed features. So even when we do the updates in the future of our Confero software, you will have the possibility to have, let's say, already more capabilities than you have right now. So, for example, for the unlicensed features, we will have, for example, 3 configurable parameters: the volume of the headphone and the speakers, the auxiliary levels, and also the levels of the Dante that can each individually be tuned. Next to that, the 5 default configurations will remain as we had it already in the past, but they will be put in another place. So I'll give more details in the next coming slides. Let's go a little bit more into detail in those 5, let's say, there's 5 audio routings that are out of the box already included in Confero without any license. So as I explained to you, we have a licensed one. There we can make custom routings, custom presets. Without this license, you can already have 5 routings. First of them is the normal one, which is in fact just having the capability of putting all the microphone inputs available for, let's say, auxiliary outputs like an external amplifier for a recording. Also having external input through Dante or through an auxiliary input, have it available on the speakers of the units here. And also at the same time having languages, so interpretation languages available in the system that can be recorded each individually on a Dante channel so that you can send them to an external recorder. So it's really important to know that even without having the license for audio routing, you can already route the languages individually to a recorder. So that's the normal one. So as you would look into the details, you would see that floor in goes to the speakers, goes also to the auxiliary output and to Dante output. And also the inputs of the auxiliary and the Dante will go towards the speakers of the units and the outputs here. And by simply clicking this route to Dante, you will put the floor on Dante 1 and the languages on all the different Dante channels, so from 2 till 12. Okay, so that's the normal configuration. So if you install Confero out of the box, that's the configuration you will get. Let's go to the next one now. That's when you have distance conferencing. So when you combine a conference system with, let's say, Teams or Zoom or any remote conferencing system, then you want to send the microphones of your microphone system towards the Teams session, for example, through your auxiliary output. And you want to insert the audio from the remote side to your speakers through here, the auxiliary input on your speakers here. At the same time, you can still, if there is interpretation available in your room, you can still record each individual language, up to 11 languages, individually on an external recorder through Dante. So if you would look how it looks on the configurator page, you will see now that everything that is sent on the microphone units is sent out on the loudspeakers, but also goes to the remote side through auxiliary output or Dante. But on the other hand, that the remote audio is coming only on your speakers and is not sent back to the remote side, of course, in order not to create any feedback. And as I said, it's still possible to route your individual languages to Dante just by clicking this small box here. As you see here, that we cannot input any, let's say, external input here, or we cannot connect any external output here that contains all the audio. That's the reason why we introduced, in fact, a third configuration. And this third configuration is what we call hybrid conferencing. So if you go to the next one, we see here that we have identically the same setup. So we have also a remote participant. But now we do have the possibility to send, let's say, external input from an auxiliary input, both on our speakers here of the units, and also send it back to the remote side. And on the other side, we can also have the audio of the remote side together with the local speakers on an external loudspeaker. So therefore, we do have this configuration that you can see here now. Let's go to the next slide. Yes. So we do have a similar routing as in the previous one, but now we see that for auxiliary input 1 and 2, and also for Dante input 1, we will route this towards, let's say, both the speakers of our units, as well as the auxiliary outputs and the Dante outputs. And it's only auxiliary input 3 and Dante input 2 that does not go to the far end. So in that way, you can easily combine remote conferencing with external loudspeakers or external inputs from microphones. At the same time, if there is interpretation available, you just click this box here, and then, of course, floor with the external speaker will be on Dante 1, as you can see here. And Dante 1 will contain everything. If you want to have the floor without the external speaker to send, for example, that back towards the remote side, you take Dante 2. And then all the languages, so from 1 to 11, will be put on Dante channel 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on. So here also, just by clicking this small box. So this is also by default available on, let's say, our Confero interface without any license. Now let's go to the fourth configuration, which is called external equalizing. That's also known. So if you want to have, let's say, the floor, so the combined set of microphones here, processed externally through a DSP. So you put, in fact, the floor out on a Dante channel, send it to a DSP, do the processing externally, some equalizing, for example, send it back here, and then it's put on the speakers of your microphone units again. But also here, if there is, let's say, interpretation available, again, you can route it on individual Dante channels just by clicking the small box. So that's visualized in this slide here. So floor in is not put on the speakers, but is outputted on the auxiliary output and on Dante output 1. And then the processed audio is coming back through the auxiliary input or the Dante input and is sent towards the speakers, the loudspeakers of the microphone units. And also, of course, here you can just route the audio, the languages to Dante. That's a fourth configuration. The fifth one is similar, but is different in that aspect that we do not send the floor towards the DSP, but we do send the individual microphones on a Dante channel to a DSP and can process the audio on the DSP and send back audio on each individual speaker of the microphone back through Dante. So while in the previous one we sent the floor to the DSP and sent one signal back to all speakers, now we send all the microphones available here towards the DSP, process it here, and send it back towards the speakers. So we can do zoning, you can do auto gain, and so on externally, also just by selecting this DSP feature. And even here, it's possible to record the languages on an individual Dante level. So it looks a little bit more complex, but in fact, you just send out microphone unit 1 on a Dante channel for each microphone, and then you send back the processed audio on all the individual loudspeakers of the units. And then if you want to use languages still in that sense, you will need to have, your Dante channel will shift a little bit, because then the first language will come automatically on Dante output 49 and so on. So by clicking here, it will be automatically done. So this is in fact the default configurations that are available, or these are the available configurations on Confero without any license. And so we talked about equalizing, so it's time for our next question. And next question is, how many movies does the blockbuster, the equalizer, have? 2, 5, 3, or 7? I give you some time to make your choice. Okay, perfect. So now it's time to have a little demonstration on how it looks like on the PC when you don't have the advanced audio routing license. So on my PC, in the technician page, you will have here the tab audio, which will look a little bit different compared to last time. So the moment you will have the update of the 7.10, you will see that all the, let's say, the 5 default presets are now on the left side. So we have normal, distance, hybrid conferencing, external, DSP. Next to that, we do have also some audio settings. So depending if you have a Dante card or not, you will see more or less features. So first of all, you have the possibility to change the volume of your headphone, to change the volume of your speaker, to change the levels of your auxiliary inputs. And if you have, let's say, a Dante card, so let's say go to another central unit, then you also have the different levels of the input and output Dantes. If you would like to change all the Dante inputs at once, you just click here, you go higher, you apply this, and then everything's applied at once. If you want to deactivate one Dante channel, it's just for once, you can do that just by clicking here. Okay? So I'll go back to normal. Suppose we don't have a Dante card inside, then of course you will not see that, just to make it more, let's say, straightforward for the end user. If you look then to the routing, you will see exactly what we have seen before. So you see the routings to make it more clear how it works, but you are not capable of changing this. It's just visualizing the actual routing. You can click on it to make it visualize, so you see that all the languages are put on a specific language channel, that you have the backup floor, let's say, on the auxiliaries, and so on. On the right side, you will see the mix minus reservation. That means that you can reserve a number of channels to do automatically the mix minus, so that you don't have to think about it. And here you can just say, okay, I will route all my languages to a specific Dante channel. The third tab is the pre-processing, and also here we have something new. We do have now dynamics for the microphones in the room, and we have a separate dynamics for the microphones of the interpreter desk, because they are typically different and they should be treated differently. And also here we have options to disable the dynamics, to take the default one, or have specific ones like without noise gates when you're in a situation with external speakers or external speakers without noise gates. On the routing part, you can see also maybe a little difference compared to what we have seen in CoCon. In CoCon, we saw the outputs on the bottom side. Now they're on top side, just to have it more, let's say, user-friendly to see what the outputs are. Okay, if you look to the different ones, of course, we do have distance conferencing with the same capabilities. Also for hybrid conferencing, we have seen everything, external conferencing. And then DSP is a little bit of a different animal. Here you see, of course, all your different microphones in your system. It goes up to 32. That's the maximum number of microphones you can use in DSP mode. And then we route, and I will make it a little bit smaller, we route all those microphones to a specific Dante output channel. So if I would make it a little bit bigger, you would see Dante out 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. Once those languages are put on once those microphones are put on a Dante channel, you can route them to a DSP, do some magic there, as I said, and bring them back on the different loudspeakers here. On the right side, you can see that there are 2 extra options, and that is microphones are always active, which should be the case when you use DSP mode, because you want to have all your microphones always active, and speakers should also be always active, regardless if you push on the button or not. So that's what you can do already. Without license, you can just choose a configuration and activate it by pressing here on the button. And that's all you need to do when you have enough with one of those 5 sessions. Okay, so that's it for, let's say, the unlicensed feature sets. Let's now move towards what you can do actually with Confero Advanced audio routing with the license itself. So when we go to the license, we do have some extra features, and the extra features are, let's say, creating custom configurations, setting mix minus and the number of the mix minus groups. We can route the interpretation or the translation channels towards Dante, and we can even import and export audio configurations. So these creation of custom configurations, that's something that I would like to show you again in my configuration. So I'll go back to my PC right now. Okay, so suppose I'm in this situation and I have a license, so I just will click on settings. I go to a license and I upload a license that contains, in fact, my license for Confero Advanced audio routing. It's updated, or uploaded, sorry. And when I go back to my audio tab here, I immediately see that everything remains the same here. But on the right side, I do have a new button, which is Add New Configuration. Okay, so what does it mean? Actually, when I click on that, I can create a new configuration, as the name says. I can make a new configuration, give it a name. I can start from an empty one, or I can start from an existing one. Suppose I start from an empty one. I click on Create. And now I see it here in the list, on the bottom list. I again have my volume, auxiliary levels, and Dante levels. And here I do have my routing. Now it's quite empty, as you can see. I only have my default languages, my 11 languages, but that's about it. If I want to change something, I click on Edit. All right? And then I come in this screen where you have the possibility to add input groups and output groups. So I'll start maybe with adding some input groups. First one could be very straightforward and just adding the floor. So that's in fact the combination of all the microphones. That's not quite difficult. I just click Create, and the floor in is created. I can also create an output group. And let's start, for example, again with a very straightforward one, the loudspeakers of the unit itself. Just clicking here, and I can add it. I can add an option to make it always active. So if you don't click on if you click on the microphone unit, do you want to have it muted or not? I just don't click it here. I just create it. And now I have floor in that can go to floor out. If I look here to my languages, and that's also something new now compared to Cocon, I see that my backup floor, so the orange dots, are automatically created. What does a backup floor mean? It means that if an interpreter is translating on a specific channel, when the interpreter desk is not activated anymore, it will automatically jump to the backup floor, which is in this case the floor input. So in that case, the delegates in the room will still hear something, namely the floor itself. We can add other output groups, so it's not only possible to add the floor itself for the speakers, but I can also add, let's say, a floor for the headphones. That's a separate one, the second floor. So you can make a split between, let's say, a floor for the speakers on the unit itself and the floor for what people hear in their headphone. And we can even add a third floor, and that's meant for, let's say, we can add a third output group, and that's meant for the interpreters. So when an interpreter is listening to the floor, it can be even something else. For example, if you want to put some delay on the floor and send it back to the interpreters to have it lip synced with the video, so you can have a separate floor for interpreters compared to people in the room. That's just for the floor. I can also add some other input groups. Let's say we do have zone 1, and that's a combination of an auxiliary input, can be some seats, some microphone from seat 2 and microphone from seat 5, for example. I could even add a Dante. If I would have a Dante card, I could also add Dante sources here. And the advantage also compared to Cocon is that you can immediately see all the different sources that are in the input group here. Okay, I create this one. And then, of course, it's automatically added here. I can add output groups. Again, zone 1, for example. I can say this should be seats 2 and 5, create it here. And then it's added here. And I can go on and make different zones, as you already understand very easily, by just adding input and output groups. Now also you can just route zone 1 to zone 1 by just clicking here or here. And by just drag and drop this input group, you can move it from below to up. So that's also a difference compared to Cocon. You have the capability to just easily change the order. Something else that is also new and is becoming quite handy is the possibility, for example, if you have different recording Dante channels. So for example, if you want to record a language, rec, on auxiliary input 1, for example, and I have another recording rec 2 for language 2, and I have another recording for language 3. Then I can make, just by shift clicking on them, I can group them together in recording, so that's, let's say, more user-friendly, so that you can combine everything and collapse or make it open just by clicking here. So it just enhances the visualization of your groups here. If you click on the language out, it's you can, of course, now we have all used our Dante channels, but suppose we don't use here our Dante out here. For a specific language, we can output them also to an auxiliary output, for example, or a Dante output by just clicking here. Now language 3 will go towards auxiliary outputs. So that's just a small overview of what is possible with this configuration. I think most of the items, for those of you who are familiar with Qualcomm, will recognize how it works. It's a very intuitive, a very flexible way to make input groups, output groups, and route everything towards each other. Okay, let's have now a look to some use cases to make it a little bit more tangible. Let's first look at the, let's say, Unite Wireless presenting and language distribution use case, where we have 5 or 4, let's say, users or delegates talking into an Unite TP, each in their own language, have it combined with a Unite AP4, having those languages distributed with Dante through a Plixus central unit, and then have this connected with our interpreter desks on Plixus, and then have these languages back broadcasted towards another Unite AP4. How would we do this with our Confero Advanced audio routing? It's one back. That's in fact just as simple as putting all Unite TP 1, 2, 3, 4 on the floor. So we do have on each input group a Dante in that is connected with the Unite TP. They are put on the floor, and then we have, of course, our interpreter desks that then can be routed automatically to another Dante channel, to a Dante output that can go through the Unite AP4 to have it broadcasted in the room. That's a first use case. Let's go to another one. For example, courtrooms, where we have typically clerk, judge, witness, podium, prosecution, defense, and jury. All of these want to have a good audio, a microphone, but do not want to hear themselves in their speakers. So we do have a kind of, let's say, mix minus in combination with hands-free mode. So we can have each microphone distributed towards the speakers of all the other units except itself, but also have it routed towards, let's say, the gallery where there is just an amplification with a loudspeaker, or have it also to an external remote participant, for example. And then also possible have each individual microphone or group of microphones routed towards a recording channel that can be routed to Dante, to an external recorder. So that's, for example, what you see here, and all the microphones plus remote plus potentially also multimedia as input, and then having everything to the speakers of the units plus external remote and the gallery outputs and recording outputs. Another use case is when you do the same for courtrooms, but then not on your, let's say, with the audio routing capabilities of our system, but if you want to combine this with a DSP and you want to do all the processing externally on a DSP. Why would you do that? Well, you could in fact combine different microphones, for example, from prosecution defense in one input group and have them routed through Dante to an external DSP. That way you can, let's say, choose for a smaller DSP, so with less Dante inputs, which make it more economical in that case, and have then the processing done on the external DSP and route the processed audio back towards the speakers of the different units. So it's the same use case, but done in a different way, here externally with a DSP. Another use case is, for example, when you have a big plenary session and you want to, let's say, split that plenary session into breakout rooms or breakout sessions. In that case, we just go from a normal audio routing towards, let's say, a custom audio routing preset, where you just route the microphones from a part of the room towards the speakers of that unit, and then for the other part, do the same. So in that case, you can just apply this kind of audio routing. Of course, let's say the normal moderation of a chairman will not work in that case, but you can easily make breakout sessions or breakout parts from one plenary session. All right. So that's about it for, let's say, the use cases. Maybe we can go now to some let's say, upcoming features. because in the first release, we will not have everything already. In the upcoming features, we will add some other items. These items are Dante on seat. Dante on seat means that you can bring in a microphone on Dante and manage the microphone just like you would manage any other microphone unit. That's not yet in the first release, that will come in the next one. What is also upcoming is the possibility of having injection of languages coming from other systems like Zoom, Teams, and insert them into a conference system. The API to set a configuration or activate or deactivate a configuration is also something that will come in the future. And then, of course, also having the capability of the audio routing in our wireless system is also upcoming. Now, let's go to the license. How do we activate all those features that I showed you? Well, actually, first and for all, it's important to know that you do not need Confero 360 to activate Confero Advanced Audio. Confero Advanced Audio Routing is another license that can be applied on Confero without Confero 360 or in combination with Confero 360. The advantage to have both Confero 360 and Confero Advanced Audio is, however, that in that case, you can have the technician who can do all the, let's say, the configuration part, and that the operating profile can just activate or deactivate a specific preset. And so he can still change the volume, for example, but after a reboot, it will go back to the preset that has been done by the technician. So it's a separate license. It's a one-time purchase, and it's the article number can be found here, 71983001. So when you download the 7.10 CRP version on your central unit and you buy the license for Confero Advanced Audio, you will have it automatically without installing anything else. So as I said, it's available from 7.10 onwards. So on previous Confero versions, it will not be possible. So you need to install the 7.10. And now it's time for our third and final question. And that's, can you activate Confero Advanced Audio without having Confero 360? Yes, no, or I don't know. So I give you some time. After this webinar, we will look for the winner of the gift card. So you will be contacted if you have won this quiz. So I would like to finalize this webinar with saying that after the webinar, you will receive a link to this webinar, and you will also find the recording on our website. So if you look on websites, you can find on this URL all webinars, not only this one, but also all previous webinars and that have been recorded already. And I would like to take also advantage of this time to introduce our next webinar that will be held Thursday, December 7th, and will be handling the subject of using Televic equipment in a boardroom setting. So please already schedule this one in your agenda. Okay, and then I would like to invite you all to follow us on our socials to stay up to date. I would like to finalize by thanking all of you for watching this webinar. I hope you liked it, and I hope to see you back on next webinar. Bye-bye.